So as Marshall was saying, this is Kyelche time in the Quantum School of Zen, but it's rainy season retreat time all over the world. It's not just in the Quantum School of Zen. Back in the Buddha's day, they would have rainy season retreats that would last 3 months. Then the monastics would spread out into the countryside and work with the people, with the lay people. And then after 3 months, and I don't know if it was again a rainy season or not, but they would come back and all join together for retreat. So we're now beginning this 3-month period of intensive practice. Now, each of us sitting here tonight are lay folks. So none of us obviously are sitting a full 3-month seated meditation retreat, but we can use this time to become more aware of our practice, more aware of the great question, what am I? You've heard me say this 1,000 times. Our practice is great doubt. What am I practice? But what does that really mean? When you take in this statement, what am I? It's not only a statement, but it's an active question. Can you go inside and experience the great doubt of that question? Take a moment. Use your breath. The breath is the tool we have to stabilize. So go inward, feel your breath. And then who's feeling it? Who is this person? Is there some individual sitting up at the top of your head inside your brain that is yourself, who is directing things? How is it that we're here right now? Where did we come from? And soon we'll all disappear. When we disappear, where do we go? And who is actually here? I was watching a documentary on PBS the other night, and it was a Nova documentary about the brain. And towards the end of towards the end of the documentary, they started asking the question, what is the self? And what the documentary was pointing to was that there are all these different areas of the brain which respond to different stimuli and do different things. And in some ways, what we call self is actually just communication between various areas of the brain. But I think conventionally, we don't admit it. But just as pardon me if I'm diminishing something that shouldn't be diminished, but often a child's view of God is this guy with a long beard sitting up on a throne somewhere way above us. And that's what we conventionally think of as God. And in some ways, self, I, is in a funny way equal to that, because it's as if we've got this guy with a long beard sitting in our head, or maybe for each of us, it's an image of what we see in the mirror that we call ourselves. And we have this idea that there's this unified thing sitting in our heads, that's self. And this self is directing everything. Really? I mean, as I say it, it sounds ridiculous. Maybe it doesn't sound ridiculous to you, but it sure does to me. And yet, there is a way in which this person here we call Jeff thinks of himself as this thing, Jeff, which moves through the universe, as if I, Jeff, controls this thing that you're all looking at on the screen. Really? Think about it. Really? When's the last time you thought about making sure your heart beats? When's the last time you directed your blood to carry oxygen and oxygenate this body? When's the last time you thought of yourself as the microbiome inside your stomach or inside your gut? In fact, the microbiome are separate organisms. So we're in some kind of symbiotic relationship with these organisms inside our gut. And these microorganisms have so much power to create the experience of life that we have. If your microbiome is off, it's possible I will become depressed. But is that me, or is that these parasites inside of me? And who's the host and who's the guest? Maybe our whole job is just to carry around a microbiome, and everything else is just like what we do to pass time. But maybe the center of the being is these microbes that live inside of us that we would say are not us. They have a separate life. They live and they die separately from us. We can kind of understand that because we can think of a I'm blocking the word, this thing that the microbiome is created out of all of these beings, really. But we can think of those live beings separate from ourselves. But how about our cells? At least in my old high school biology class, we were told that about every 7 or 7.5 years, our cells renew themselves, and they're new cells. So who died and who's born? So in some ways, these are all silly questions, but they hopefully start to poke some holes in the concept and the conceptual idea we carry about I. So if I am not all of these things I conventionally believe I am, then what am I? That question is the beginning of Zen practice. That question could be the guiding light of the next 3 months, this Kyolche time. What am I? What is this? I would imagine that each one of us have some things in our life that we feel a little bit queasy about. And we bring this question, what am I, and its corollary, what is this, to those things and study them over the course of the next 3 months. Many of us have heard this famous quote by Zen Master Dogen, who said, to study the Buddha is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the myriad things. What are we forgetting? Can we hold that question? It's actually quite difficult to hold a question like that for 1 second, let alone 3 months. So we need tools to stay connected to the question. The first tool we have for this is our breath. Zen meditation is built upon the breath. Can you, right now, experience the breath from start to finish? Breathing in, knowing that you're breathing in. Breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. Okay, that was pretty short. You could do that? Okay, now, while you're breathing in, raise the question, what am I? As you're breathing out, stay with the question, what am I? Okay, that was about 10 or 15 seconds. Can you stay with it that long? I get one nod. How about everybody else? Is this working? Can you sense yourself in that moment of breathing all the way in, breathing out, and now breathing in, what am I? Staying with it. Breathing out, what am I? Staying with it. I know in our usual practice, we breathe out, don't know. But for this purpose, you can see that for a short period of time, you can actually stay with your question. The challenge for us is to lengthen that time. And one of the first things we're doing with our Zen practice is developing a foundation that can stay present with what we're asking ourselves to stay present with. Each of us likely has our own meditation practice. You hear the instructions every week. Our standard instruction is on the in-breath, clear mind, clear mind, clear mind. On the exhale, don't know. Sometimes we raise it by, what am I on the in-breath? Don't know on the exhalation. For myself, mostly, I breathe and count. Over and over and over again, staying with the breath and just attaching a little number to the exhalation. I go from 1 to 10, back to 1 to 10, back to 1 to 10. And I've been doing this practice for many, many years. For a very short time, maybe about a year, whether that's short or long, Zen Master Bon Soeng was having us slow our breathing down. Normally, we don't talk so much about this, but for me, that slowing the breathing down was really valuable to my practice. It may or may not be for you. I'm just offering this as a possibility. But by slowing my breath down, it actually allowed me more space to stay with my breath. And if we can stay with our breath, we're teaching ourselves to stay with our question. If on every breath you're asking, what am I? And not just intellectually trying to understand it, but really with your whole body, what am I? And if we can stay with that breath to breath to breath to breath, we begin to create some stability in our practice. Very often when people talk to me about their meditation, it's a lot about how we're kind of floating around. There's nothing to do in meditation. And yet each one of us has this very full-bodied, complete experience. Meditation is not passive. It's physical and it's actually active. Can we hold our awareness? Can we stay centered and present and allow the awareness to expand? Meditation takes practice. That's why we call it practice. It's not something we get in an instant. It's something that we cultivate over and over and over and over again. What am I? What is this? In meditation retreat, during our time of really focused meditation, it seems very difficult, much more difficult perhaps than it is in the everyday world. But I think it's actually quite the opposite. I think when we're sitting in meditation, we get to see what it's like to try to stay present, focused, and hold on, not hold on, but be with a question. We use hundreds and hundreds of koans, but we often, I think, focus too much on answering the question rather than learning to be with the question. For those of you who have done or are doing koan practice or kangan practice, think about what happens. You've been working, maybe those of you have been working on some of the 10 gates or the 12 gates. Think back to your early practice when the teacher asked you, monk comes into the Zen Center and says to the teacher, Master, I've just entered to the monastery. Please teach me. And Joju, the Zen master, says, have you had breakfast? Yes, I have, replied the monk. Then Joju said, wash your bowls. In that moment, the monk attained enlightenment. If you've never worked on that karma, it's like, what? What is he talking about? That is the beginning point to open a karma. I'm looking around the screen. I know that many of you sitting around the screen have answered that karma. And I would submit to you that that koan is dead for you now because you think you know the answer. And you've moved out of the wonder and curiosity of not knowing and entered the world of surety and belief. I know the answer. I might like to tell you right now that that answer you think you know, it's complete bullshit. You've done a great job of satisfying your teacher. But do you believe it? Do you have any idea what it really means? You got that little gold star. The teacher says, wonderful. So then you think, I got something. Now I understand something. What do you really understand? So even if you've solved a koan or answered a koan, what is that really? Oftentimes you have to go back to it again to allow yourself to return to not knowing. We really want to know. We really want certainty and the feeling that we're okay. And if you get into this relationship where you're working somebody with koans, then you want to ultimately, you want that approval. But that also could be a trap. So often, it's my view that we focus way too much on the teachers. It's your practice. Even if I tell you that's a good thing, really? Make sure it really is for you. What am I? What is this? Not what is Jeff? What does he think? What am I? What is this experience right now? That question alone should guide you really for your entire life, but certainly for the next 3 months. How do you remember to bring the question up? It's one thing if you're sitting in retreat, but as what happened to us today, sometime you're going to park in a parking lot and somebody's going to break your window. Where's your great doubt then? When your anger arises, where is your great Tao? When your frustration arises, where is your great Tao? When you grab at that thing that gives you a good feeling, where is your great Tao? So I'm really suggesting that you think about it right now. How are you going to remember? What's your plan? How are you going to keep your practice alive? Some of us carry around these kind of beads. And in many ways, these beads, if we carry them, are wonderful reminders. If you have it on your wrist, every time you notice it, you feel the sensation of the bead on your skin. That's a reminder of your great question. In neuro-linguistic program, they call it an anchor, that you anchor your attention so that you remember. And what I'm offering a possibility to all of us, that we spend these next few months trying to anchor our practice into our lives. Not surety, not certainty, great doubt. And a couple of months ago, I gave this Dharma talk on Zen Master Daquan's ABCDE. What she developed, boy, there's a lot going on in the Dharma. What she developed as this ABCDE is nothing outside of our practice. What she did was she took important tools and put them together in an acronym. But these 5 things can help sustain your practice. If you just remember this ABCDE, A is awareness. Come back to the moment. What's actually going on right now? Feel your visceral sensation. When you're in meditation, sitting in the Dharma room, this is easy. Like right now, I feel the pain in my left hip. There's a part of me that says, damn, I don't like that pain. But the practitioner in me recognizes that when I feel that pain, I actually wake up because I become aware again. When you taste your food, taste it. Those of you who did any practice in the Vipassana world, you might remember eating the raisin. Taking a raisin, putting it in your mouth, and chewing very, very slowly. This drives Zen people crazy. But there's a purpose for it. There's so much sensation, there's so much subtlety that happens out of the chewing of one raisin. Can we be aware and present for our experience? So awareness also means presence. What Zen Master Bon Soeng would say, what am I doing right now? And he had another question that we don't talk about as much, but it sits in my head. And he would say, why do that? Pay attention to your life. After you did something, why do that? This why is not so much an intellectual why. With your entire being, why do that? Where does my motivation come from? What's the story that I'm carrying that propels me in this direction? What's the feeling in my body that I'm craving? What am I? All of these are questions which allow us to come back to the moment, come back to our awareness. B is breath. As I said, breath is the foundation of our meditation. Breath is the foundation of our life. We all know no breath, no life. It's very simple. You stop breathing long enough, you're dead. So this breath, it's the essence of our life. In Zen, we learn to experience the breath, to notice the breath, to be the breath. It's not observing the breath. It's actually being breath. That I am breath. There's no separation, or I is breath. So first we have awareness and presence. Then we have breath. And the order, I think, is just dictated by the order of the alphabet. There's not one that precedes the other. It's more like a circle that goes around and around. So be as breath. Pay attention to your breath. The breath is so beautiful for attention purposes because you're always doing it. And maybe you forget about it for 6 hours, but then you notice, oh, I've come back. I've returned. So make a commitment. I'm going to be breath. I'm going to bring presence to the moment of breath so that every time you feel your breath, you wake up. You've already done it. You're already complete. You don't need anything else. Just be breath. C is center. That place about 1.5 inches below your navel. Or in China and Korea, they call it the Tangen, energy garden. In Japan, they just call it the center. This is like your true home. Bring your awareness and your attention down to your center. Pay attention in your life. Am I living out, spreading my energy all the way out? Can I bring it back in? Even when I'm engaged with you or something else, can I be aware of center? These are all tools to help you come back. It's available for you anytime, any day, whether you're suffering or you're ecstatic. All these things are there for you. The conditions don't matter that much. Come back to your breath, come back to your center. D is don't know. Keep your don't know mind. The truth is we don't know. The famous Zen Koan says, not knowing is most intimate. Being intimate with our life is awakening. Don't know is the gate we walk through in order to awaken. Every moment is that gate we can walk through. Because fundamentally, we don't know who we are. We don't know where we came from. We don't know where we're going. We don't even know how we managed to get through this day. How many times today did you fake it because you didn't really know what to do? It's not a bad thing. We don't like it too much because it scares us a little bit. We like to feel certain and secure. But if we can get more comfortable being less certain and less secure, the whole world can open up for us. And finally, E, effort. You have to do it. This talk is a reminder. But as soon as this talk ends, a lot of it is going to go right out of your head. And honestly, an hour from now, I may not remember exactly what I said, because you all know I don't plan too much about what I'm going to say. It comes out in the moment. Use your awareness, use your beads. If you wear a ring on your finger, use your ring. If you wear a watch, use your watch. If you wear a pendant, use your pendant. If you itch, use your itch. they're all reminders. What am I? Come back to the moment. Allow this great doubt to rise. And then, boom, do it. That E means effort. Do it. It's not a conceptual practice. It's alive in the moment. It's visceral. It's real. All the rest is just our mental agitation or our emotional agitation. What am I? Feel the itch. Feel the breath. Experience the hunger. Experience the pain. Experience the fear. Be it. Don't separate yourself. So I know I've gone on a long time. I apologize if I've put you into a trance. But we have a retreat coming up next weekend. Not this coming one, next weekend. 3 days. We've got an 8-day retreat coming up the last Friday in February. I'm wondering about adding some days to the 8-day retreat, maybe making it a 15-day retreat. I'm even thinking about maybe adding a weekend at the end of March to close out this time of practice. I really want to encourage you to take it seriously. You can't just think about it. You have to do it if you want it to be really valuable and life-changing. And why put ourselves through all of this struggle of actually sitting for as long as we do and really holding to the practice if you're not going to allow it to transform you? We say, let go of our small self, become our true self. Notice the way you're attached to your suffering. Notice the way you really don't want to give it up. And challenge yourself. Really? Does that make any sense at all? So please do your best. Each one of us have different capacities. We have different lives. We have different ways our lives will unfold over the next 3 months. Use your practice as a touchstone. Keep coming, so many of us are really consistent in our coming here on Wednesday nights. I see many of you on Tuesday nights. Clinton and the Boise group do a practice Monday through Thursday. Many of you go to that practice early in the morning. Check out our website. There's so many different opportunities to help you grow your practice. And I suppose to finish up, what I'm really wanting to say is use this time to help your practice grow. It's not only the best thing you can do for whatever you might actually be, but it's actually the best thing you could do for this world. Whatever peace, love, wisdom, and compassion you want this world to manifest, it manifests through us. It doesn't come from somewhere up here. It comes up and out through us. So cultivate it. Cultivate what you want for the world. You'll make that happen by your own transformation. And in an ideal world, if all 8 billion of us were to really take this seriously, imagine what a different world we'd live in. If people got to know themselves better, got to be comfortable with not knowing, didn't need some authority to tell us, but we know for ourselves, the world would be a different place. It comes through us. It doesn't come from out there in. It comes through us and out. This is serious business. Take this time to do it. Thank you very much for listening.